3:14 a.m. The cooling fan of your 3-year-old MacBook Pro sounds like a dying drone, a relentless, high-pitched mechanical whine that bores directly into your skull. The aluminum chassis is physically hot against your bare thighs. You are sitting on the edge of a stained IKEA sofa in the corner of your living room, the space you now grandiosely refer to as HQ. The harsh blue glow of the screen casts a sickly, pale light over your face. Your hands are shaking. It is a subtle, high-frequency tremor radiating from your fingertips, the biological byproduct of 4 cups of generic drip coffee and 72 hours of acute sleep deprivation. You swallow hard, tasting the acidic, metallic burn of stress and bile at the back of your throat. Level 1. The Delusional Bootstrapper. You are staring at the mobile app interface of your Chase Sapphire Reserve. The progress bar for your credit utilization is a solid, angry crimson. The balance reads $34,500. This is the 4th personal credit card you have maxed out in the last 9 months. In the master bedroom down the short hallway, you hear the muffled rustle of your spouse shifting heavily under the duvet. You instantly freeze. You stop breathing. Your chest tightens in a vice of pure, unadulterated panic. You do not want them to wake up. You do not want to see the quiet, terrified pity in their eyes when they ask, for the 3rd time this week, how you are going to cover next month's mortgage payment, or why the savings account built for your child's college fund has been quietly drained to 0. This is the mathematics of bootstrapping, and it is a violently inverted financial physics. You have traded a comfortable 6-figure corporate salary, health insurance, and a matching $401k for the privilege of burning your own net worth at a rate of $10,000 a month. You are paying for AWS server instances that host nothing but test environments, a freelance UI designer in Eastern Europe who barely speaks English but charges a premium, and legal fees to incorporate a Delaware C Corp that currently possesses 0 intellectual property of actual market value. You have absolutely no revenue. You have no product market fit. Every day you work 16 agonizing hours solely to accelerate your own trajectory toward personal bankruptcy. Yet you are entirely sedated by the core psychological trap of this stage, the delusion of idea worship. You look at the jagged, half-broken Figma wireframes of your application and you see the next decacorn. You read TechCrunch articles about 22-year-old dropouts raising millions, and you seamlessly project your own face onto their headshots. You have convinced yourself that because your vision is intellectually pure, the market will inevitably and magically reward you. You treat your 30-page business plan like a sacred, infallible text, stubbornly refusing to acknowledge that without a ruthless go-to-market strategy, distribution channels, and a path to positive unit economics, your world-changing idea is nothing more than a highly expensive, self-indulgent delusion. You worship the theoretical concept while remaining entirely blind to the brutal, bloody mechanics of commercial survival. To escape this suffocating, windowless basement of the startup lifecycle, a brutal psychological sacrifice is required. You must strangle the visionary inside you. The person who wants to change the world, who obsesses over the exact hex code of the logo, and who writes manifesto-style LinkedIn posts must die tonight. You must mutate into a cold, ruthless pragmatist. You must realize that an ugly, half-broken, duct-taped product that generates $100 in real, paying revenue from a frustrated user is infinitely more valuable than a perfect, pristine platform that exists only in your mind. You have to stop dreaming, stop building for yourself, and start selling to a market that does not care if you live or die. Level 2. The Seed Stage Beggar. The air in the reception area of the Sand Hill Road venture capital firm is aggressively conditioned, smelling faintly of citrus water, expensive espresso, and absolute unyielding power. You are sinking slightly into a low-profile, mid-century modern leather chair that costs more than your entire first-year operating budget. You are wearing a blazer that feels slightly too tight across the shoulders, a physical manifestation of your crippling imposter syndrome. Your palms are slick with a layer of cold, clammy sweat. You discreetly, desperately wipe them on the fabric of your dark jeans. The silence in the room is heavy and designed to intimidate, punctuated only by the soft, rhythmic clicking of the receptionist's manicured nails on a polished glass desk and the muffled hum of Teslas gliding by on the street below. Through the frosted glass of the boardroom door, you see the blurred, shifting silhouettes of the partners. You slide your phone out of your pocket under the table. Your corporate checking account balance is $14,203. Payroll is due on Friday at 5 p.m., It will cost $28,000. You are mathematically dead. The heavy oak door swings open. "They're ready for you," the associate says, his voice devoid of any human warmth. You stand up. In the span of 3 seconds, you must suppress the agonizing, paralytic terror of your impending financial ruin and plaster on a mask of predatory, inevitable success. You must walk into that freezing room, look into the eyes of billionaires, and convince them that you do not need their money, but that they desperately, existentially need you to generate their funds alpha. The financial reality of the seed stage crucible is a brutal lesson in leverage and the true cost of capital. You are not raising money in the traditional sense. You are begging for a high-risk, uncollateralized lifeline, and you are paying for it with the most expensive currency in the known universe: the equity of your life's work. The term sheet they might slide across the polished walnut table is not a diploma or a prize. It is a complex, weaponized legal trap. It contains 1x non-participating liquidation preferences, weighted average anti-dilution clauses, and board seat requirements that will fundamentally and permanently strip you of your absolute control. They are buying your future sweat, your blood, and your nervous system at a steep, distressed discount, betting that you are one of the 1 in 100 lottery tickets that will return their LP capital. Here lies the most intoxicating and dangerous psychological trap: the vanity of raising. If you survive the pitch, endure the due diligence colonoscopy, and the wire transfer finally hits your starving bank account, the dopamine rush is catastrophic. You see the TechCrunch headline: XFang founder raises $3M seed round. Your phone floods with congratulations from people who ignored you yesterday. You immediately change your Twitter bio to founder and CEO. You start attending exclusive mixer events, ordering expensive wine, and speaking on panels about innovation. You fall into the fatal, seductive illusion that securing capital is equivalent to achieving product-market fit. You forget that the clock has just accelerated to a terrifying speed. The venture money is not a reward. It is an hourglass rapidly filling with sand. You are now legally and morally obligated to grow your valuation at 300% year over year, or you will be categorized as the living dead, a zombie portfolio company, by the very people who just smiled, shook your hand, and handed you the check. To survive this sudden influx of capital and advance to the next stage, you must brutally assassinate the promoter, the version of you that thrives on the pitch, the storytelling, the slide decks, and the external validation of venture capitalists must be discarded. You are no longer a charismatic fundraiser. You are now a fiduciary operator. You must pivot violently from selling the dream to executing the grueling, unglamorous, microscopic mechanics of product delivery, user retention, and customer acquisition. If you stay addicted to the applause of the tech press and the VC echo chamber, you will burn through their $3 million in 18 months, and you will find yourself locked out of the very building you sacrificed your soul to rent. Level 3. The Scaling Dictator. The haptic motor of your iPhone vibrates against your thigh. It is a sharp, frantic staccato. You do not need to look at the screen to know it is another cascade of Slack notifications. You are standing behind the floor-to-ceiling soundproof glass of your new corner office, a pristine, minimalist glass box suspended above a sprawling, open-plan floor in a newly leased Soma high-rise. Outside the glass, 50 illuminated MacBooks cast a pale, uniform glow on the faces of people whose last names you barely know. You should feel like a king surveying your empire. Instead, as the phone buzzes again, your chest tightens with a crushing, suffocating sensation, as if the oxygen in the room is slowly being siphoned away. A PagerDuty alert flashes neon red on your secondary monitor. The AWS database cluster is bottlenecking under the load of a new feature rollout. Simultaneously, an email arrives from your payment processor flagging an unusual spike in chargebacks, and in your direct messages. Your founding lead engineer, the guy who slept on your floor 3 years ago, has just requested an urgent one-on-one. You press your forehead against the cold glass. You are officially the CEO of a Series A company. You have $12 million sitting in a Silicon Valley bank account. But you have never felt more profoundly, dangerously out of control. The financial reality of the scaling phase is a terrifying acceleration of the treadmill. You are no longer fighting for mere survival. You are fighting against the gravitational pull of your own burn rate. You are hemorrhaging $400,000 every 30 days just to keep the lights on and the servers spinning. You are buying talent, SaaS licenses, and customer acquisition channels at a premium. The venture capital math is now a relentless whip cracking against your back. If you do not triple your annual recurring revenue, ARR, within the next 18 months, your growth curve will flatten. If the curve flattens, the Series B investors will label you a lifestyle business. Your valuation will collapse, and the equity you bled for will become statistically worthless. You are driving a Formula One car that is actively shaking itself apart, and you are terrified to take your foot off the gas. This environment breeds the most toxic psychological trap for early-stage founders: the tyranny of micromanagement. You remember when you wrote every single line of the core repository. You remember when you personally closed the first 20 enterprise accounts and answered every customer support ticket in the middle of the night. You know exactly how things should be done. Now, you watch your newly hired mid-level managers execute tasks at 80% of your desired quality, and it physically sickens you. You cannot let go. You parachute into pull requests to rewrite code. You hijack sales calls because you think the rep's pitch is too weak. You obsessively tweak the margins on the marketing landing page. You mistakenly believe that your relentless intervention is saving the company, while in reality, you have become the single, catastrophic bottleneck choking its growth. You are a dictator refusing to trust your own generals while the empire burns. To break through this suffocating plateau, a violent internal revolution is mandatory. You must brutally execute the omnipotent doer within you. The version of you that derives self-worth from being the smartest person in the room, from being the ultimate problem solver, must die. You must mutate into an allocator of resources and a manager of organized incompetence. You have to force yourself to step back, watch a suboptimal marketing campaign go live, watch a minor server outage happen, and do absolutely nothing. You must learn that scaling is not about maintaining perfection. It is about accepting localized fires as long as the foundation of the building remains intact. Level 4. The Boardroom Puppet. The heavy, custom-milled walnut table dominates the center of the boardroom, its polished surface reflecting the stark, recessed LED lighting overhead. The air in the room is aggressively filtered, smelling faintly of catered organic salads and the dry, chemical scent of whiteboard markers. It is your quarterly board meeting. You are sitting at the head of the table, nominally the chairman and CEO, yet you feel an icy, hollow sensation in your gut, the distinct biological realization of being prey. Across from you sits the Series B lead partner. He is not looking at you. He is scrolling through an iPad, his face a mask of absolute terrifying indifference. To your right stands your newly minted chief revenue officer, a polished, silver-haired mercenary you poached from Salesforce for a $500,000 base salary and a massive equity grant. The CRO clicks a presenter remote, advancing the slide deck. The screen displays a complex lattice of metrics: net dollar retention, LTV to CAC ratios, magic number efficiency, and cohort decay curves. He speaks in a smooth, frictionless corporate dialect that flows effortlessly over the heads of the investors, who nod in synchronized approval. You stare at the charts, and a cold sweat breaks out along your hairline. You realize, with a sudden and paralyzing clarity, that you do not fully understand the underlying mechanics of your own company anymore. You built a disruptive software product. They are currently discussing a complex financial machine, an enterprise sales motion that operates on a logic completely alien to the code you once wrote. You are the founder, but in this room, you are merely a spectator to your own creation. The financial reality of this level is the brutal institutionalization of your equity. The company is no longer a romantic vehicle for your personal vision. It is a highly engineered financial instrument designed solely to generate liquidity for the preference stack. The board members do not care about your elegant product roadmap or your mission to change the world. They care exclusively about the enterprise value multiple. They own the preferred shares, the blocking rights, and the acceleration clauses. If you stumble, if you miss 2 consecutive quarters of top-line growth, they have the legal mechanics to cleanly sever your head from the corporate body. You thought you were the owner, but the capitalization table reveals the cold truth. You are an employee of the fund, serving entirely at the pleasure of the board. This exposes the agonizing psychological trap of the late-stage founder, institutional betrayal, and the loss of identity. To achieve scale, you had to hire adults, the professional management layer. But in doing so, you handed over the keys to the kingdom. You are slowly being managed out of the daily operations. The engineers report to the CTO, the sales reps fear the CRO, and the investors only talk to the CFO about the margins. You are left floating in a void of abstract leadership. You become a mascot, trotted out for PR interviews to spin the mythical founder narrative, and kept around for employee all-hands meetings to provide a facade of cultural continuity. You are suffocating under a gilded cage of corporate governance, realizing that the company you birthed has outgrown its need for you. Surviving this transition requires the death of your most cherished ego. You must assassinate the product god. If you cling to the belief that your value lies in the software, you will be systematically marginalized and eventually replaced by a professional CEO. You must shed your old skin and mutate into a ruthless politician and capital allocator. You must learn the dark arts of board management, how to pit investors against each other, how to manipulate the narrative of the metrics, and how to coldly fire the very executives you hired if they begin to threaten your political survival. You are no longer building software. Your product is now the company itself, and your only job is to control the people who control the machine. Level 5, the paper billionaire. The pneumatic suspension of the black Maybach S-Class absorbs every microscopic imperfection of the San Francisco asphalt, creating a frictionless, floating sensation that only serves to amplify the violent churning in your stomach. The privacy partition behind the chauffeur is raised, sealing you inside a silent, climate-controlled vault that smells of bespoke Napa leather and ozone. The soft, ambient LED lighting of the cabin reflects off the screen of your phone. You are staring at a digitally signed PDF. It is the finalized Series C term sheet. The post-money valuation officially prints at $1.2 billion. The tech press will publish the embargoed press release at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You are officially a unicorn. You are a 30-year-old billionaire. You swipe your thumb across the screen, closing the PDF and opening your personal banking application. Face ID authenticates. The screen loads. Your liquid checking balance is $142,560. A cold, hollow laugh dies in the back of your throat. This is the agonizing, schizophrenic financial reality of the paper billionaire. To the outside world, you are a titan of industry, a newly minted aristocrat of the digital age. But inside this car, in the dark, you know the terrifying mathematical truth. Your entire net worth is locked in illiquid, highly restricted common stock. You cannot sell your shares on the secondary market without triggering a panic among your investors and violating board-mandated lockup agreements. You are technically worth 9 figures, yet you cannot even qualify for a traditional mortgage on a decent penthouse in Tribeca without a guarantor, because your W-2 salary is artificially suppressed to show founder alignment. You are the wealthiest poor person on the planet. Worse, your colossal valuation is no longer a trophy. It is a ticking time bomb. The venture capitalists, who just wired $200 million into your corporate treasury, did not do so because they like you. They did it because their financial models demand a 10x return. You are now contractually obligated to build a $10 billion business. If the macroeconomic environment tightens, if the Federal Reserve hikes interest rates by 50 basis points, or if your quarter-over-quarter revenue growth slips from 18% to 14%, your multiple will compress. If you are forced to raise a down round, the punitive anti-dilution ratchets buried deep in the Series B and C preferred stock agreements will activate, violently wiping out your common equity and transferring the ownership of your life's work entirely to the investors. You are balancing a skyscraper on the head of a pin. This births the most paralyzing psychological trap of the late-stage cycle, the liquidity panic and the golden handcuffs. You no longer take risks. The visionary who started this company in a living room is dead. You have become terrified of your own product, terrified of disrupting your own revenue streams, terrified of anything that might spook the public markets before you can file your S1. Every product decision, every marketing campaign, every executive hire is reverse engineered entirely to protect the valuation multiple and engineer a safe exit. You are no longer building a company. You are carefully escorting a highly fragile, explosive financial asset toward a liquidity event. To survive this final stretch, you must commit absolute ego death. You must assassinate the builder identity. The romantic notion that you are creating art, or shifting culture, or building a legacy must be entirely eradicated. You must accept that you are now merely a portfolio manager for a single, highly concentrated, highly illiquid asset. You must become a ruthless, cynical operator whose sole biological imperative is to ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange and dump your risk onto retail investors before the music stops. Level 6. The Exited Ghost. It is 9:14 a.m. on a Tuesday. The lockup period on your founder shares officially expired at midnight. The heavy, suffocating silence in your sprawling, 10,000 square foot Atherton estate is physically oppressive. There is no frantic buzzing from the phone resting on the kitchen island. There are no emergency Slack pings, no PagerDuty alerts screaming about server outages, no frantic text messages from your chief revenue officer about a missed quarterly target. The central air conditioning hums softly. Outside, a team of landscapers silently prunes the immaculate Japanese maples. You pick up the phone. You open your Morgan Stanley private wealth management portal. The interface is stark, minimal, and entirely devoid of emotion. The wire transfer from the block trade has officially settled. The number staring back at you is $185,450,000. Absolute, unencumbered liquid cash. There is no rush of dopamine. There is no sudden burst of euphoria. Instead, a cold, creeping numbness spreads through your chest, radiating outward to your fingertips. You walk slowly toward the massive floor-to-ceiling glass wall that overlooks the infinity pool and the valley below. For 10 years, your brain has operated on a constant, lethal drip of cortisol and adrenaline. You have lived every waking second in a state of high-stakes, existential combat. Your company was your weapon, your shield, and your entire identity. It was your excuse for missing your best friend's wedding, your father's funeral, and every quiet moment in between. Whenever someone asked you who you were, you simply pointed to the company. Now, the war is over. You have won the ultimate prize. You have achieved the absolute apex of capitalist success. But as you stare out at the perfectly manicured valley, the financial reality of absolute freedom reveals its horrific downside. You have zero burn rate. You have no board of directors to appease. You have no employees depending on you for their mortgages. You can buy a super yacht, a private jet, an island in the Mediterranean, and you would not even dent the principal of your fortune. But this is the final, inescapable psychological trap, the trap of absolute void. You realize with a sudden, devastating clarity that the stress, the panic, and the crushing weight of the startup were not just burdens. They were the structural scaffolding that held your personality together. The company was an exoskeleton you wore to interact with the world. Without it, you are entirely shapeless. You look at your reflection in the heavy, tempered glass. You see a person in expensive, casual clothes, holding a phone with more money than entire sovereign nations. But the eyes looking back at you are entirely vacant. You have spent a decade systematically killing every soft human part of yourself. The hobbies, the friendships, the capacity for simple, unstructured joy, all to feed the machine that eventually bought your freedom. You traded your soul for a 9-figure payout. And now, standing alone in a silent mansion on a Tuesday morning, surrounded by infinite wealth and absolute autonomy, you have absolutely no idea what to do with the rest of your life.